G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff, and this week I've got the OG co-host, everyone's favourite guest, according to the surveys, actually.
According to me.
Yeah, and according to you as well, definitely according to you as well. Kaes, how you going, mate?
Good, mate. Good to be back in Studio Heff.
What's been happening in Planet Kaes?
Not much, mate. Just working, dadding, just living life.
How's the old Front Runner podcast going at the moment?
Front Runner, if you do like horse racing, and especially horse racing in SA, we're back this week. So jump on the Front Runner podcast and on all your Spotify's, Apple, whatever, all that kind of jazz. And listen to us. We'll kick off heading into what we got Adelaide Cup over here in 5 weeks' time. And
so it's our autumn racing carnival, is that right? Coming
correct,
up?
Yeah. So we 5 weeks into Adelaide Cup, then another month, and then it's all the best jockeys, horses, etc. are in Adelaide for 3 weeks.
So if you're into that sort of thing, listen to Front Runner podcast. There you go. Nice plug right at the top.
And recorded in Studio Heff too.
Yes, the best studio in Adelaide. If anyone else wants to record in Studio Heff in Adelaide, hit me up.
Correct.
Anyway, how's your keeper team looking in the off season? Any tough decisions? I had a look at your list the other day and had a good chuckle over the state of it. What's
that's
the go?
fair. Look, so Heff has taken over commissioner role this year. I don't know if he's talked about it on the podcast. So
not a heap. No,
I white flagged. It was getting too hard for me. Heff was putting on too much pressure. But look, no. So we're keeping 12 plus 2 under 50 gamers, and then a few rookies. So we're kind of phasing out our rookie stages. So I'll run through my 12 plus my 2 under 50s, which are so defenders: Sam Flanders, Callum Mills, Trent Rivers, Lockie Ash. That's pretty strong.
That's pretty good.
So in the midfield, where I'm very weak, Chad Warner, Will Day, Jordan De Goey, and Finn Callaghan. Ruck, Max Gawn. My forwards are Luke Jackson and Elijah Hollins.
That's a weak line.
Yeah, look, forwards are tough. So at this stage, my 2 under 50s will be Cam McKenzie and my boy here, Matthias Filippo. Obviously, bad news last week with his injury, but I think I've got to keep him. And then basically at the moment, it's a coin toss between Kadeem Coleman and Jack Graham.
Kadeem Coleman and Jack Graham.
So obviously my defence is pretty stacked, so I'm not too worried. And I think there'll be a few good defenders floating around the draft pool. So I think at this stage, purely based on his DPP status and forward status, and I'm kind of confident that he can push a 75-ish at the Eagles if he stays fit. I think I'd be leaning Jack Graham at this point.
Surely your team is a long, long, long way off a flag, and Jack Graham's getting to his late 20s now.
What else do you do? Like Kadeem Coleman might. No, I don't know. Well, the other thing is, who am I supposed to... On the cut line, it's not a very hard cut line.
I would go Kadeem over Graham, but it's,
Look, at this stage, that's the way I'm leaning.
Yeah.
But my goal is to try and get in some good midfielders, because my midfield depth is obviously pretty poor. I don't really have a standout captain apart from probably Sam Flanders, Max Gawn at this stage as a VC. My rookies I'm keeping, like Ollie Dempsey's fine, Harry Sharp's unproven, Samson Ryan, who knows.
What pick you got in the draft? 4?
Pick 4, and then I've got yours as well in the first round. So I've got 2 picks in the first 11.
You're going to get Sid Draper, and then you might be able to get one of the...
Well, hopefully I might even get an Ashcroft.
No, I don't think he's going to fall that far, surely.
Hoping.
1 and 2, surely.
We'll find out.
And then, pick 7, you might pick up like a Smiley or something like that.
Yeah,
I'd love Travalia, maybe.
Yeah. So I think I'll be able to get someone. I just need a bit of depth in that midfield. Obviously, my backline's stacked. But yeah, it's a bit of a wishy-washy team. I'm not super happy with it.
You're up the top for quite a while. Didn't end up with a flag, but I think a couple runners up and stuff like that. So it's probably time for the rebuild. You haven't had to do a proper rebuild.
Had to do a proper rebuild. So I think I'm well into that. And look, I think it's probably going to come down to if Kadeem Coleman's looking likely early season, like if there's confidence in his body. At the moment, we're hearing like, no, he definitely won't play, or yes, he definitely will play. So it's just kind of like, we'll see what happens, because I think he's a very good player, and I think Zorko's got 1 year left, and then it's Coleman time.
Absolutely. And it might even be this year, that he might get that one injury that puts him out for the season.
Correct.
Or whatever, and then it's over.
We won't talk about your team because it's too good.
It is too good. How are you finding the keeper platform? What's been your favourite thing about using it so far?
I love the historical data, so, previous years averages and stuff like that. I really like that. It would be good to see if you could go back into previous years and see game-by-game data.
Yeah, I think that might be coming.
That'd be good.
I think the issue with us is like, who's got that data to put in?
Well, that's true.
I think Zanks actually does. He's just missing 1 season of it.
Yeah.
So I think 2023 we didn't scrape it, but I think he's got every other season there.
So
but
that's cool.
My other league, I've got Tribey. Shout out to Tribey. He's in my league. He has kept everything since day dot, and he's already put it all in. So like you can see like an overall like historical ladder like, over time as well.
Cool.
So I think I'm top and I've won 52 and the next guy's won like 50. I think I've won 56 and the next guy's won 52 or something like that over the 6 or 7 years I've been playing that. So
obviously the big one is inclusion of picks in like trade offers, like, and even just seeing like obviously your little logo comes up as my pick under my banner, so I can see, where it's kind of come from and stuff like that. So I love all that.
The thing I love this week actually was getting a trade done finally in our league, and just like the negotiation messages and stuff like that. You can say, I think a message, you go, come on, meet me in the middle type thing, and we decided on a pick in between, like that little stuff as well. Just that whole history of the what you've offered, and you can kind of see everything. And
the push notifications cool.
Oh,
like
that's
whether you're getting them, but even just like because so many times previously, like a trade would go through in your league and you wouldn't have any idea what's happened, whereas at least push notifications on, you can see that you've traded with someone else, and it's just like, oh, cool.
It's good for me as the commissioner as well, because I'm usually sitting here at my computer working during the day, and I just get like, oh, so trades happen. I can just approve it right there. I don't have to log in. Like it's just two taps on my screen, my phone screen, and do it. So
obviously interested to see the draft platform. So I know another keeper league has moved across, and so has a single season league. So get a few cracks at the draft, which will be good.
Yeah, definitely. I think keeper's going to do a good job at that too. I think I actually saw footage of the draft. He put it on Twitter actually. Ryan Power put it out on Twitter, the actual draft room lobby and all that sort of stuff, and actually how it actually operates with your on mobile app as well. It's going to be really kind of good on mobile app, which is going to be good for me because it sounds like I might not even be going to the draft and be drafting on phone this year. So
imagine the commissioner rocking up to his own draft.
Well, it's not my
punishment.
It's not my fault that my favourite brewery puts on two of my favourite bands and then some of my favourite Adelaide bands all on the same day.
Priorities, hey?
Yeah, I know. But anyway, I can still draft. I can do both. My priority is actually the fantasy football, not the social side of thing that goes with it.
Man, you've completely gone into a cave.
Anyway, what are we talking about today, Kaes?
We are talking about forwards, my favourite line of all time.
I did specifically pick you for the forwards because you like digging deep through the trash.
I like digging deep, and I'm also such an optimist when it comes to key forwards and the like. So I'm excited to get stuck into it. And you've obviously compiled a big list, but I've added a few more in there that kind of catching my eye.
We'll get to those. All right, let's talk about the breakout contenders first. I think they're the most exciting. So first one I want to talk about is Isaac Rankin. Do you think his midfield time increases with Draper and Peatling entering that midfield? Laird's going back to defence, obviously. I saw some training reports that Crouch was still playing in the midfield quite a bit. And Sam Berry actually got 46% of the CBAs last season from 18 games. I don't think he'll be in there. What are your thoughts on Rankin? Is there a path for him to increase his scoring?
Definitely. I've actually heard from a pretty reliable source, not a friend of a friend from outside the club, and apparently it's full-time midfield this year. I'm talking an 80-20 split. They want his electricism or whatever, I don't know what the word is, but they want him in there. They obviously, I think, maybe Dawson's going to play a bit more halfback too, but I think they're committed to kind of Crouch, but they need a bit of speed. They need some movement. So it'll be Rankin and Saligo kind of providing that in the middle. Yeah,
right. So that's news to me. Because we had him pegged 30%. 30% CBAs last season, and I was thinking that maybe with the new additions to the midfield, they might not be able to lift him any further than that. And
apparently this is the year. This is the year Isaac Rankin goes into full midfield time.
I want to leave it at that. I think that's a good way to leave Isaac Rankin. Full-time mid, you heard it here first. Riley Sanders is the next one to think about. Now, he played 14 games for a lowly average of 63 last season, but probably didn't get the roles that he quite needed to flourish at AFL level. Did average 116 in the VFL last season. You do have Kennedy coming into the Bulldogs side, but we've just learned that Treloar is going to miss the first few weeks or month or so. Do you reckon Sanders is someone who can break into the midfield and score well this season?
Look, I don't have a huge opinion on him. I'm sure he's going to be good, but I haven't followed him probably as closely as you have, because I think he's your boy, isn't he?
Not one of mine. He's too high on the draft for me.
Okay, you go down the other way. But look, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Bevo does. Obviously, we know that Daniel and McRae have gone, and Treloar's injured. Does Kennedy kind of play a big role? Unsure. Bailey Smith's gone too. There's plenty of opportunity, so it'd be interesting to see, someone like Sanders if he can take it. And what I love is that 116 average in the VFL, that proves that he's a ball winner.
Yeah, absolutely. He just needs the opportunity. If Bevo's not a fuckhead, he probably will get it, but that's who knows. It's Bevo. Anyway, let's move on to your boy, Mateus Filippo. Massive enter last season's obviously had the injury setback. Do you think this season, he's locked for the future, obviously, so we're mainly just talking about this season. Is 2025 going to be a write-off, or do you think he can work his way back into it?
Well, they're saying he's going to miss, 3 to 4 months, so effectively he might play 10 weeks, so you might get 10 weeks. So I think if you're coming at it from a keeper league point of view, I think you got to keep him, and where you draft him as startup would be a big question. But if you're playing a single season draft, for me, he's all of a sudden become like a question mark because he's going to get those 10, 12 games at the end of the year. Hopefully they're fruitful in the middle.
Yeah.
But the issue is going forward, like the keeper league coaches have also lost this year because you're not going to get that big year as a forward from him.
Yeah, he's going to be mid-only.
He's going to be mid-only next year. So take that into account when you are creating a startup keeper league. Probably drop him down a few pegs because yes, he might be good the back end of the season, but he's only going to be that sweet forward line sugar hit for maybe 2 months.
It is. What is it? Foot injury? What's the go with him?
He broke his leg or had a fracture.
That's right. Yeah. A stress fracture.
Yeah.
So that means like running's out of the question.
Yeah.
So like he might not be fit enough to play midfield when he comes back.
That's the big thing
too. So he might start forward and he
potentially,
might keep it.
And that's the only potential blessing going forward. But my gut feel is, well, it depends how St Kilda's season's going too. Like, what do they do?
Yeah. I agree. Connor McDonald's the next one on the list. Do you think he can push past 80 this season?
I reckon for me, I'm going to put him down as like a Toby Green type.
Yeah.
So like that's his role. He plays it really well.
Toby Green when he got midfield time?
Toby Green, like just, you could always draft Green consistently knowing that he'd be like a 75, 80. Like you might get a few big scores. You're not going to get it. His floor is going to be really high.
Yeah.
I think McDonald will still have some pinch hit time in the midfield. I think, they're looking at, Day, McKenzie, Warple, Newcomb in there as the core kind of four, and then McDonald will kind of push in there for bits. But I think starting up a keeper league, I reckon McDonald's a beauty because I think he's just going to be long-term forward, never going to lose it, and he's going to be 75 average minimum for the next, 6-8 years.
Yeah, I think he'll be almost 80 average minimum, I think, and he'll probably keep that forward status. I did see a training report that he played a lot of time in the midfield in the first half and then was basically solely forward in the second half. So that's probably what he's going to be, probably maybe like a 35, 40% maybe CBAs type thing in the long term. Maybe even less than that, to be honest. If he's that effective up forward, he might that's where he might stay. But I think just what I'm trying to get at is he'll always be a forward. Yeah, I think so.
Totally. I think he's a really safe lock if he's starting up a keeper league.
I do like the Toby Green comparison in just his scoring. Like I think he will be like mainly forward, but will have seasons where he does boost his centre bounce numbers.
Even like Dylan Moore. Effectively, that's what Dylan Moore's done the last few years.
Yeah. Darcy Wilson averaged 65.4 last season playing on a wing. Did have a 73 average from his last 5 though. Talk of him playing inside this season, inside midfield that is. I think he's someone you should watch really closely with Filippo now out, do you think?
Yeah, very talented. I think there's a few Saints guys, I didn't add them later in the doc, but I think other guys with forward status this year that are worth keeping an eye on are Mitch Owen and Hugo Garcia. I think there's been a few good reports with Garcia over the last week as well. So I think you can look at guys like Wilson, Garcia potentially as maybe F3s this season.
I always get the Garcias mixed up. Like I never know which one's which. Riley.
Also a talented player. But I'm really excited to see what Darcy Wilson can do. I think he's got plenty of speed and, really like if you're talking about wings especially, McRae's old who's come across and so is Mason Wood. So potentially, he's probably a year or so away from really kind of taking his game to the next level. Yeah, I think he's a player that, I was talking about this last season, I do think he's a player that will end up on the inside eventually. Didn't think it would be this early, but if we're listening to training reports and then personnel injuries, all that sort of stuff, could see him in there pretty soon. So yeah, it might be exciting times for owners. Now, Sam Darcy is a really interesting one because he had an average 75, or effectively 76 last season. And what I've been kind of shocked at is he's just rated so high among the community. In the community rankings, the mock draft simulator, I think the community rankings he's in the 50s. Mock draft simulator, I think he's always gone around the top kind of 70 picks type thing. But I don't see an extra avenue for him to kind of boost his scoring. I think everything kind of went perfectly right last season to average like a 76. Like for me, he's a key forward who needs a bit of ruck time to be good. Like he's good at taking marks around the ground, all that sort of stuff. But he's going to be behind Tim English for a long time, and that kind of puts me off. Like if there was a path for him to be a full-time ruck, say there was like an English rumor that he was going to another club or something like that, I'd be more on top of it. But I feel like he might just be a 75 to 80 kind of guy, which is pretty good. Like Charlie Curnow's that guy. With that? Charlie Curnow's that guy. But does that mean he's a keeper forever?
I don't think that's bad. I just don't think that's top 50 material in a keeper league. That's all.
Well, that means he's an F3, F4.
Yeah, I'd rather bank points in the midfield than go for someone
Keep
like him. Then go, or not keep it, like maybe keep him if you own him, depends on your stocks. But in a startup draft, I don't think I'd be taking him before pick 50, that's for sure.
Oh, okay. Got you. Look, what did he average last year? So he averaged 8 kicks, 5 marks, 5 handballs, 7 hitouts.
Yeah.
That's probably about right. If you can boost his goals up, that would be good. I love a key forward, Heff, and for me, I reckon he is one of the young key forwards with the most upside. Like great pedigree, potentially can ruck or spend a bit more time in the ruck. Like if Tim English genuinely goes down, you could get a massive boost off Sam Darcy. Could he get ruck forward status going forward? Could he be like a new Luke Jackson who, yes, his numbers haven't been amazing either way, but he's just a great person to have in your keeper league side because he can, use his DPP to advantage.
Yeah, I don't agree with any of that, to be honest. I think just the kind of how highly he's being rated is just too much. Like
top 50 in the whole league, that's fair.
Yeah, because like you're thinking of the best key forwards in the like players like Hogan, Harry Mackay, Curnow. Those guys are low 80s guys in their peaks. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it feels like a bit of a waste to be going that early. That's all.
So maybe people are banking on a bit of ruck forward DPP, maybe. Yeah. But
I don't know. Well, I don't know. He's one to fade for me. Let someone else take him. I think it was just because he would go too high.
You just hate key forwards. You got something against them?
It's not. I've done well. I've done well with key forwards in the past. It's just that like people go way too crazy over them. That's all. When you could be picking a midfielder that's going to average way more. Elijah Holland's next on the list. He's your boy, Kaes. 86.2 from his last 5 games last season. I do think that was somewhat boosted with Carlton's injuries, though. With Jagger Smith coming into that midfield, probably hurts him. But Walsh is injured, but probably won't be out for that long.
Yep.
Kennedy's out, I guess, but Hewitt they were just rotating them between the sub anyway. So like, I don't know. What do you think Elijah Holland's averages this season and beyond?
I think he can be the same. I don't know if he'll ever be like it's going to be interesting to see what happens with his status going forward. Like, will he always be a forward or DPP? Will he generally mould into a midfield? I'm not sure. My thing is the Blues always seem to have injuries. Like Chera never seems to be fit. There's always Walsh always have like a real innocuous injury.
Yeah.
Cripps, yes, he's had a good few years, but there was a few years before that where he was always battling. So like I think he's a really good, next bloke up kind of operator where obviously really talented. And like I think we do forget that he was a number 7 pick, and like if you read all those draft reports back in the day, like he probably would have gone close to being number 1 if he didn't do his ACL.
The only caveat on that is it was the COVID year when no one was really watching anyone that closely. But
he did his ACL. Like he could have been a number 1 pick or number 2. Like he could have been. He was
touted that level.
He went to Gold Coast, didn't get the opportunity because their mids are always pretty solid, and then obviously had his off-field discretions. Started last year, but he really hit back really well last year. Like I think he's a great play with the forward status. Is it going to last long term if you're planning for that? Unsure, but I think he's going to be a safe. As you keep telling us in the group chat, mate, an 80 average midfield is hard to find too.
They are. Yeah, they're very
So, if that's if he's an 85 mid for the rest of his life, he's probably still a keeper in most leagues.
He could end up on a wing too, though, as well, which is not great.
But I still think if he is on a wing, he'll probably average
around 80.
85.
Yeah,
I think you could take... There's probably a lot of people who are taking him a bit higher than he should be.
Just because of forward status.
Yeah, but I also think he's relatively safe whether he loses it or not. I think he's a pretty good... baseline scorer.
Yeah, I think like if he does lose that forward status, he could be like an M6 for your team. So that's fine. Bailey Humphrey, third year. Is he going to be like the Cam Rayner type where we kind of like what we see for a long time, but he never puts up the fantasy scoring? Or is he going to be like the Dusty Martin that he's always had the potential for?
This is the annoying thing with Gold Coast is because they get all these good midfielders in, right? And then like you can't really knock off Rao Anderson, Took. So it's just like...
Flanders is struggling to get a gig.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's just lucky that he absolutely loves slutting off the halfback. But then, that's why guys have to leave. Like who we were talking about, Hollands before. So like, will we ever see the best of Bailey Humphrey? I'm really not sure.
There's talk of Rao being traded to Geelong.
Yes.
So... that might be a pathway in a year or two. So maybe he's one to pick up a little bit later if he's in the right spot.
There are signs of Bailey Humphrey being a bit of a tease. Like, looks like he's got it, but doesn't really. I don't know. But for me, he's one I'm happy to kind of fade and let someone else look at.
I'm like, at the right price, I will take him as a bench option and to stash. And that's probably where he is for me still. I'm not expecting a breakout this season.
I'm not either, because I think Gold Coast are going to have to run their best mids.
And they want to make the finals desperately as well. So they'll be playing their best possible midfield. I just don't think he's quite in there.
Yep.
Another Hewitt, Elijah Hewitt. We talked about that, sorry. Oh, did we
No.
go?
Elijah
Hollands we talked about, sorry.
Yes.
We did talk about Ollie Hollands last week. But anyway, Elijah Hewitt, written off with injury in 2024. Showed glimpses in 2023. I guess with that, I don't know, West Coast being a young side, you'd expect someone like him to come straight back into the side.
Yep.
But I don't know. Do you think someone like Elijah Hewitt will break into the side in 2025?
Well, obviously, what we've been hearing from Twitter reports and stuff is that there is some midfield time there for him. Early in the preseason. But for me, there's unsettling things with Baker coming in. What role does he play? Graham, even always to a degree, like they're going to play these guys in their best positions. So where does Hewitt kind of fit in that mix? He's still going to play Kelly. He's still going to play Reid. I think there's upside in Hewitt, and I'd love him in my side. It's just for me, I'm not quite sure where I've got him in my ranks just yet.
Yeah, if you look at the mock draft simulator ADP, I'm not sure if this is still the case. This was a few weeks ago, but like he was going at the same kind of level as your. So once you've locked in your keepers, right? So you'd expect the new draftees to come on board. It was like once the top 3 or 4 draftees came off the board, then it was people going for people like Hewitt. Type thing.
So he's first rounder redraft.
Yeah. Once you've locked in all your keepers. In the deeper ones, that is.
I think there's actually upside. Like, he could be one of those guys who just goes bang this year.
Yeah.
Like, finally gets his body right. He's got the pedigree by the looks of it. If he gets the opportunity and what's his name? New coach, McQualter just goes, yep. Yeah. Let's give these kids some opportunity. I reckon he could be one that just comes out the pack.
I find West Coast and Richmond especially just so hard to predict what roles are going to be. Because what have they got to lose to put people in?
But I'm also very excited to draft people from West Coast and Richmond purely because, yes, they're genuine dartboard throws.
Yeah.
But you could just get one that just goes bang.
I think in your situation, yes.
Yes.
If in my situation where I'm trying to win a flag, I'm so scared that none of them are actually going to touch the footy.
But that's true. But I reckon if you you pick 2 of 2 and 2 from either side, I reckon one of them hits and one of them's like a long-term gun keeper.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not a bad point. Riley Thilthorpe is the next one. So another one who's constantly in the top 100 of the community ranks, a bit lower than say someone like Darcy, but he's always in the top 100. And again, I'm aware of going that high on a key forward that hasn't. Like, he's had a good 4-game stretch, I think, at the end of last year, but hasn't really proved himself. One thing I will say is, I was big on him being a ruckman.
Yes, that's in my notes. You were going to say he was the number 1 ruck.
And I honestly believe that because he was a ruck as a junior. But then when he came back from his injury, it was just obviously they bulked him up to be a key forward. He just looked like key forward. So I've scrapped that kind of thinking now. I think he's 100% a key forward. And there have been good scoring key forwards at the Crows. Tex has actually been he's probably been F3 range. I think a couple of seasons he was probably F2 range. Yep. Could he be the next Tex and score like that? Or is Tex just like a generational player and that won't happen again? What do you think?
Well, you and your mate Stephen Rowe believe that he should be the number 1 ruck at the Crows.
Me and Rowan agree on the first thing we've ever agreed on. Cool.
No, but what I was listening to, I think Darren Burgess was talking about what they do with Riley Thilthorpe. Apparently he's a bit of a unicorn as such as he's got such a big frame, but he's actually incredibly nimble and aerobic. So you're talking about generational players. If he is that key forward type, and I think what Tex's big... if you're talking about Tex, what Tex's big strength was his ability to get up and down the ground, and that's where he got so much ball, as a high lead up forward. So if Thilthorpe's got that motor and, obviously he's got a big set of hands, he's a huge unit, he could genuinely be a 75, 80 long term too.
I think a few things with Tex, in his prime, he was in a pretty good side. That 2017 Crows side was pretty good.
Crows are only going to get better.
But also as well, he was good in the 2 seasons ago when the Crows were still shit. The only thing with Tex is you could back him in for a goal anywhere.
Yes,
we haven't seen that. That's an extra +6, that we might not get with.
It's almost like why you draft Darcy Foldy late, because you know that he's going to kick 2 or 3 because he just doesn't miss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that other side of the coin that you just got to think about. Neil Erasmus is the next one. I think they've just got to blood him this season. I know they've played him on the wing and stuff in the past, but he absolutely carved up in the VFL at the end of last season. I don't know. Do you think there's a spot for him?
I don't know if there's a spot for him, and obviously Shy Bolton, whichever it is, Shay coming in is not great for him, I don't believe. But if you look at his stats, obviously because I look at all the state league scores throughout the year, he was the 3rd highest average disposal winner in the Waffle, had 26 touches, 2 goals, 11 tackles, and 132 points in the Waffle Grand Final.
Yeah, massive.
And was best on ground. But I'm concerned that they're going to have to use Bolton. They're paying big money for Bolton to come in. He's going to have to have midfield time, I think, to be at his best and to give Fremantle that extra edge going forward. And I just don't think if Erasmus comes into the side, yes, would be good, but I don't think he's going to play the role that he's best at.
Just looking at their CBA numbers last year, Fife still got 6% of the CBAs over the whole season. Now, I reckon Freo would have to be crazy to play him. So that makes...
In the CBAs, but that's where Bolton's going to take some.
Well, I don't know if he's going to... But I think they've recruited him to more play forward. Like, they were screaming out for the Lockie Schultz kind of guy once he left. I think he'll be like a 30% kind of guy.
Sarong, Brayshaw, Young, are you kind of core three, Fife will float through.
But we saw Young play out in the forward line a bit more last season as well. So I reckon there might be part of the rotation there for him to give him a bit of a go.
So, but once again, where are you taking Erasmus then? I think he's only a late flyer.
I'm not taking him after him. I'm not picking him to be a best 18 starter. I'm only picking him when it comes to bench emergency type situations. But like, I still think there's a spot for them to at least try him out this season, and if he takes it, he could be a good goer. But I reckon there's every chance, because they got such depth, like Matthew Johnson could just go in there and play that role that is left by Fife.
That's my thing. Like, there's no standout omissions from the side.
And the Murphy Reid, the draftee, is supposed to be pretty bloody good as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him a run too. So like, I think there is a spot up for grabs in the midfield if they play Hayden Young out of the midfield a little bit more, like not as highly as they did in the first half of last season. I just don't know if Erasmus is the number one guy to take that role, but I do think he'll get an opportunity at some stage.
I'd love to see him. He's a high-risk, high-reward pick.
Yeah, definitely. Undervalued players. Now, Bailey Smith's only on this list for averaging under 80 because he was injured last year. What week will he be too good for the podcast, do you think?
How many weeks do you need?
0 before round 1.
I just like to see Bailey Smith get through like a game.
I think we made Nick Dacos 2G, 4P before the season even started.
I think one game... Just doing the thing,
make sure that
he's come back from a long injury, so it's just like, let's just see it.
All right, one game I reckon it'll take before he's too good for the podcast. Shea Bolton, do you think there's scope for him to improve his scoring?
Yes.
Okay.
Bid on the stats.
No, I haven't.
Shea's last 5 games at Optus Stadium.
Yeah, okay.
Averages 25 touches, 2.5 goals,
you realise
he's not playing
for Fremantle at those games, right?
His points range is between 99 and 136.
Playing for a very, very bad Richmond side.
Yeah, but he's still got to play against Fremantle, who are good.
Yeah, but now he's got 3 midfielders.
He just loves the open spaces of Optus.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's more likely just going to play his prime Richmond when they're prime. Yeah. I reckon he'll play that role, which is more of a 30% midfield, 70%.
Which is fun because he can be the guy that disposes of the ball inside the 50. Like, he's going to be a distributor, so it's going to be like Sarong, Brayshaw getting it out to maybe the booming foot of Hayden Young or Shea.
If he's playing the exact same role, then how does he improve his scoring?
He will improve his scoring.
Okay,
more space.
Just will.
Better side.
MCG's not big enough for him.
No, he just obviously likes playing at home and Optus. Okay. His Optus numbers are insanely good.
I'm skeptical it's going to increase, but that said, it still makes him one of the best forward picks.
So what did he score last year?
76 something, 78?
He'll be a mid-80s for sure.
I don't know. I'm skeptical. I think he will be around the same. Or
mid-80s.
Very low 80s, I reckon. At his best. Caleb Daniel is the next one. I think he's an early too good for the podcast as well, but sounds like the role he's going to have is going to mean big points. He's just going to be running free off halfback.
To be honest, he should never be on the podcast.
Don't really need to talk about him, yeah. It's only Bevo that brought him back. Liam Baker, sounds like he could have a huge year. That halfback role at West Coast seems pretty much locked in, and all the predicted best 22s he's named on the halfback flank there. Who makes way... Or are you buying it? Like, I guess you'd have to now. Who makes way for him in that halfback line? And
like Tom Cole, or I don't know.
I reckon Tom Cole's too good defensively, I reckon.
Well, Whittington was never really playing, but
does Duggan just go full-time mid?
Potentially. Like, he's the co-captain now, isn't he?
Or does Brady Hoff just like fade off into oblivion?
Once again, you're not recruiting these guys if there's not a key spot for them. Like, that's my thing. So, like,
100%. I'm saying, I'm more so saying who's going to suffer in that West Coast side.
Who's going to? I don't really know. But like, no one is really dominating for West Coast if we're going to talk about it.
I think Hoff is just never going to make it, to be honest. Like, we've been trying to touting him for years. He's the right fantasy type, but something always comes along to kind of ruin his path to scoring well.
So the annoying thing with Baker is this will be his last year as a forward.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
So
is he a mid forward or a def forward?
He's a def forward.
Is he right? Yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Anyway, Matthew Kennedy. Baker. Sorry, we'll keep going Baker. I think he's going to be fine, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But I think it's going to just stifle all those Hoff owners out there that are waiting for him to come good. Unless someone like Duggan does move full-time mid, but I just can see them playing a 1-2 prong on half-back line as well. So, yeah. Anyway.
I have to think about that more.
Matthew Kennedy, does he have a role to play in the Western Bulldogs midfield, do you think? I wouldn't have picked him surely if
I
they
don't
weren't going to
know.
play him. Is he like the Harms guy but better? You know what I mean?
Well, potentially. He's any of those guys that pop up at a new club and you go, well, there could be a bump there, but is
like,
there really?
You know how Western Bulldogs recruited Harms
Yes.
to be that kind of...
Yeah.
Do you reckon he's a better version of that and Harms just won't play and he'll be
I think
Harms?
Kennedy was pretty underrated last year. Like,
Yeah.
I think he had a pretty good season.
I think he's always been underrated, isn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
I think he's solid enough. And
Well, he averaged 77 with 4 sub-affected games as well. So you'd think if as long as that sub-best is not coming to him, he's an 80 average forward,
it's
right?
just what... Once again, it's probably a guy I'm happy... Like, if he comes at the right price in a draft, sure.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, absolutely go for him.
If you can somehow get him at an F4 range, like you'd take
definitely.
him there.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're picking F3s, you probably want someone you know is guaranteed is going to be playing
I'm
each
just
week.
not... for me, he could be, but I'm just not... He's not guaranteed best 23 for me.
Yeah, agreed. Well, maybe that changes, but like again, like someone's got to replace Treloar. Is it Kennedy? Is it Sanders? I don't know, because like you can talk about Bailey Smith and Caleb Daniel leaving and McRae leaving, but none of those guys are playing midfield anyway, so
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter. So it's just hard to find a spot for all these people, and who knows what goes on in Bevo's mind. Josh Tracy. See, this is a key forward I'm actually keen on. So
there's one.
Average 76 last season. I don't know if I'm more keen on. I just see more people writing this guy off more than necessary. Like
It's just because he's not got the sexy name.
yeah, and people coming down to like your last spot keepers and he's, automatically the first one they throw out type thing. Where I think like he averaged 75 last season, 76 last season. I reckon he can just do that again. I think he can be like consistent 75 average guy.
Yep.
I think that's probably the difference between someone like Darcy or someone else we talked about before. What was your key forward that you like? Phil Thorpe is more that he's not as hyped as those guys, but I think he will produce very similar as those guys.
Look, I'd be happy to have any of those three in my team, but I do agree that he's not the cool name.
Yeah, he's not the
So
sexy name.
you're going to get him cheaper, which means he's going to be a better value pick.
It's because he was injured at the end of last season and the other guys were putting up
And he
big
plays
scores
for
at the end of
Freo
last
and
season.
people just don't
no one
know what
watches
goes
them.
on in
Yeah,
Perth.
that sort of stuff as well. So I reckon he's just if you want to take a Sam Darcy, just wait a few more rounds and pick up Josh Tracy later on and you'll get similar returns.
Yeah, for me, it's just where they fall in the draft. Like, I think there's value in all of them if they're taken at the right time.
Yeah, I agree. Jack, we're agreeing too much. Jack Graham is the next one. 64.5 average last year. He needs to increase his midfield time, but I think he can do that at West Coast to be a good scorer. 37% last season, playing a lot up forward. What do you think his CBA splits might be, and then what do you think his average might be on the back of that?
For me, like, if he's not playing in the middle, he's a bit wasted.
Yeah.
Like,
Why
Richmond
would you
trying to
pick
play
him?
him on the wing, what's the point? I like him when he's playing midfield, like centre square stuff.
Yeah.
For me, like, as we were talking about before with, kind of him between him and Coleman just at the moment, but like, one, there's got to be opportunity for him because West Coast is shit. Two, my issue with him is he's injury prone. Like, he would never have played a full season for the last, ever maybe.
Yep.
Gut feel that is. But the other one is like, you draft him, he could be a 60 average forward or he could be an 80 average forward. And I don't feel there's much in between. Like, it's very high risk, high reward pick.
Yeah.
It's a one for the punters. And once again, it comes down to where he falls in the draft as to where he might be value.
I think I got a bit of a gut feel.
F4? 3?
Could be higher. I could have him F3.
Do you want me to trade him to you?
No, thank you. I
you sure?
got no spot. I'm on the
You
list
sure?
for him. No. My only thinking is Yo out of the side, injured.
Yeah.
Could have another injury affected year. I think he could play a very similar role to Yo.
Hang on.
Midfield.
So you were telling me before you would keep Coleman purely because you want to take Graham in the draft. Got you.
Okay, there, that's right. No, I think if I was
Stop
your
with your
team,
mind games.
If I was your team and I'm rebuilding, I'd be taking Coleman because I don't think he's going to be that relevant
Full
for that long.
behind that.
Anyway, Sean Manor is a name that's very popular. Now, people forget he's 28 years old because he's a draftee last year. They think he's this young, fresh, young punk. I've seen him ridiculously high in keeper rankings, and I think we've forgotten that fact. But anyway, 79 average. 72.9 average from 10 games last season. But the 85 from the last 3 is the big one.
Yep.
And he had 2 big 100-plus scores throughout the season, and then also had 100-plus in the finals, and we won't mention against who that was. But anyway, had some injury concerns pre-season already, but I think he should be a solid F3, F4 in terms of his scoring potential if he's fit and playing each week.
He's just not someone I'm that interested in.
Yeah.
Like, what's his role going to be? They're going to give more, like, Tanner Bruin didn't have much luck with injury last year.
Yeah.
Jack Bowes is playing good time. We've also got Bailey Smith coming. Do you have Matt Rao coming next year? To me, there's just... And Geelong are notoriously not the highest scoring team either. So it's just like, do they give more time in the middle to Jai Clark? Like, I don't know, like... He can probably average exactly what he did last year, but for me, it's just like, I'm good.
Yeah, I get flashbacks of Sam Menegola with this guy. Not because they play the same role.
1 or 2 good years.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
It's just like nothing.
Yeah, and then it might be just finished, and because that's what Geelong kind of do with their mature age players.
And they have the same initials.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, that's why it strikes out as me. Handy option if at the right price, I think.
Yeah.
But don't go nuts on him, and don't get fooled into thinking he's a young punk because he's in his second season of AFL.
We know forwards are light on, so people are going to keep him when they probably shouldn't have, or they're going to draft him earlier, and I think there's heaps of risk involved in that. So for me, it's a no.
Yeah, I think if he's playing, you've got a guaranteed 75 average forward. Guaranteed, minimum.
Not for me.
Anyway, Cam Rayner. I'm actually interested in Cam
Your
Rayner.
boy.
I've written him off. I've loved him, backed him, and written him off so many times. But he had his highest career average last season of 67. And it's like not great for fantasy, but like the thing, just watching him closely last season, last year was the first time you look at someone like Cam Rayner and you go, this guy's actually an elite footballer.
He's a very good footballer.
You know, he just showed glimpses of being up, like finally living up to his number 1 draft pick hype. Now, that doesn't really happen in the fantasy way, but he always draws those Dusty Martin comparisons, right? And like Levi Ashcroft comes into that midfield. So like it makes it so hard for him to actually get a midfield spot locked down. I think he will be like, you'll get from him like the Dusty days where Dusty didn't get midfield time. So 70s to 80s averages from here on. I think you'll get above 70 at least from Cam Rayner as a forward going on from here. I don't think he's actually averaged over 70 yet in his career. But I think he'll be a 70 guy, and I think that's good enough. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think he just plays his role too well. Kind of like Zach Bailey. Like, in some teams, these guys could be full-time mids or have a lot bigger, mid-forward split.
I think you're more likely to put someone like Cam Rayner in the midfield than Zach Bailey, though.
Yeah.
But then also, Rayner was just like taking contested marks inside forward 50.
That's what I mean. Like, he's such value up forward. You know, almost like if he just doesn't have enough as much speed or skill maybe as like a Rankin, and that's where the difference in split kind of is for guys who are absolute stars up forward.
Make it clear, I don't think he's going to increase midfield time or anything like that. I just think he's just going to be a more effective forward.
I just don't know if he's like at that, say he's a 67 average, like he's not a keeper. He's not even a first 4 rounds of a redraft league.
But my point is, I think he goes at least 70 plus this year.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. My question with Brisbane is like, what are they? They've just come off a premiership, so they probably don't care too much. But like, Lockie Neal's getting on. Josh Dunkley's 28. Like their core mids apart. Will Ashcroft's young. Obviously, his brother is too. Like, what's their midfield going to look like in 2 years' time? Are they going to start throwing some of these guys a bit more mid-time? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think. Like I said, I don't think Cameron's going to get any more mid-time or anything like that. I just think he'll be a solid enough forward to just be fieldable as like an F5. That's all. The only other one I'm interested in is Jack Carroll. Just interested to see that he got picked up by St Kilda. I had him kind of picked as not playing AFL anymore since he got delisted from Carlton. And they've decided that they wanted a bit more midfield depth. They were open to playing Paddy Dow last year, and I think Carroll's probably got more potential as a fantasy scorer anyway than Paddy Dow. The Pooh's injured. And just looking at, I don't know, I think he's a player that you can probably draft late and then hope for the best.
So no from me. Talking about like your Garcias or your Owens and stuff, I know lots of them are playing lots last year. Garcia probably not, but I think their guys more likely to step up. They're going to get that Toby Travaglia in somewhere too.
He'll be a defender though.
Yeah, but like they're still going to. Who are they dropping? Like,
well, have a look at their midfield though. Like, if you look at their most used at the centre bouncers, Jack Steele, obviously number 1. Then Crouch is gone.
Yep.
Paddy Dow was the third over that. What's that?
It's one game.
Crouch. Oh, there you go. Well, that's even more then. So Paddy Dow is number 2 most used midfielder last season.
Marcus Winhager.
Then Winhager, who I think did he cop an injury at some stage? I can't remember. Hunter Clark came back halfway through the season, but like, then you've got Seb Ross, Zach Jones. That midfield is shallow.
It is.
Like, you're going to bring McRae into it, obviously, but with Philippou injured, who's your go-to number 3 guy? Is it someone like Hunter Clark? And then who's 4? Like behind that, because all the other guys have been retired and they're out. Like, that's my only thinking is like they are incredibly thin on midfielders. There's every chance that he just gets a crack, and I think he's listed as a forward. He's worth a late pick because not many people are going to be thinking about him.
That's correct. No one will be thinking about him.
Yeah, true. So, yeah, that's Jack Carroll there. I don't know if any other podcasts have mentioned Carroll so far this year.
That's why we're the best in the business.
Anyway, you got a few extra.
I just got 2 more. Jack Lukosius, obviously. Look, if you look over his last 4 seasons, he's averaged between 61 and 86. Yes, a couple of those years were kind of more in defence. But for me, he's got a clear role. So no Charlie Dixon, no Todd Marshall. Really, like Mitch Georgiadis is only the other notable key forward up there. I can't see Port dropping off either. So for me, Lukosius comes to a better drilled club. Potentially he plays a bit higher up the ground, leaves Georgiadis a bit deeper, maybe. I think there's some genuine upside there for an F3 to F5, and I think he's kind of been forgotten about just because he had a bad year or two at Gold Coast and got traded for peanuts. So I reckon there's plenty of value in Jack Lukosius.
Went out to Port training Friday, and what I found interesting was they're playing predominantly forward. He was really good at forward. But in all that, they did a lot of situational type play. So they'd have like, we just kicked the goal in the last quarter. We're 3 points up. This is how we're going to set up from the centre bounce. And every time Lukosius goes straight to the wing and then runs into defence from there. So you might see a few...
Bit of West-offy.
Yeah. So you might see a few extra just marks. And the other thing that we saw was in those situations was a lot of slow play. So chip, like kicking and just keeping the ball off the opposition, kicking backwards, all that sort of stuff as well. So like in your last 3 or 4 minutes of the game, and I think they're doing it in quarters situations as well, you might see Lukosius getting an extra +6, +12 on the back of those, per quarter. So he's someone I kind of had written off as I didn't like him as a forward, and I saw no other way where he'd play, but no, very, very obvious. Starting him on the wing, defensive wing, and he just pushes straight back to defence.
Well, he's best 22 easily.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
I think he's a great pickup. He's a number one draft.
Yeah, and he's gonna spend some time in defence, and that's where he did his best fantasy scoring.
Justin Westhoff 2.0, look out.
I reckon he could be.
Other forward I really like the makeup of is Logan Morris from Brisbane. So Joe Danaher, obviously recently retired legend, averaged 83 and 76 in his last 2 seasons of footy. Logan Morris averaged 71 as under 18 and 74 last year in the VFL before coming up and playing in the Lions side. Kicked 2 goals and had 64 points in the grand final last year. 191 centimetres. His draft profile said he is a bit like Charlie Curnow and Brody Marchap. We won't talk about that. But a strong marking target who can work up the ground, and his point of difference is he can also play down back. I just like him. Hipwood has to play close to goal because he's not great up forward. I think Logan Morris could be a real late pick that just is an easy F4 or 5 because no one's going to be talking about him, and he's got a good tank. He's got proven AFL experience already, premiership winner, and he's going to have to replace that Joe Danaher role, which is a very, very nice role.
With my last pick, if he's there, I would take him because he's going to play each week. We'll play most weeks. So, someone to think about later on. But there's also a million of those names down that
But there is. But I think if you genuinely want a guy who's playing each week, if you want bench cover, if you want maybe your last spot on your field, I think Logan Morris is a very good value pick.
I just want to see some big dominant games before I'm putting too much in investing in the future.
I would have taken him by then, so you missed out.
It's all good with me. All right, let's go on to the stash options. Dan Curtin is the first one to talk about. Now, what do you call the opposite of a truther? Who's
faker?
No, I don't know. Maybe the truthers in the kind of American kind of politics system. They're the conspiracy theorists, right?
Oh, I don't know.
That they think they know better than everyone else. So
I'm a simple man.
I'm probably just a normal person.
Yes.
Is that the way it goes?
Sure.
Anyway, now there's a lot of hype about this guy.
You're a hater.
It's because of those that under 18s carnival average. People are so hot in him because of it. And I just do not see... And that he was playing as a midfielder in that. And I think it was like an 80-something. Not huge anyway. I could have been more than that. I can't actually remember. But he played his best junior footy as a key defender. I just don't get why people are spending so much time about these 4 games that he played in the under 18 champs over his whole kind of underage career in the waffle. And I know some of that was in senior footy, so it was hampered a little bit. And then his first season at AFL level... Why are we looking at those 4 games in the under 18 champs and not the rest of the stuff that he's done so far? Like, I reckon at best we might see him be like a Josh Battle when he goes back, but he's training as a forward this preseason as well, which I think is even grosser for him.
I can't get a read on him, and I think this year you're either going to look like a genius if you take him or a bit of a fool.
I reckon most people are going to be fools, to be honest.
The other thing is I think we live in Adelaide and there's like this natural Crows obsession with Curtin.
But this is on the community rankings on the mock draft simulator.
Must be a lot of South Australians.
Maybe, yeah. I'm seeing a lot of hype, that's all. Like way too much hype for what he's worth. I do think, however, just on the back of it all, he is a stash option. Like he is someone to pick up late if he's there.
He's also best 22.
You reckon?
I think they're going to have to play him.
Yeah, you'd hope so. But they've got like 3 or 4 new players to come into that side.
Like, they can get rid of Brody Smith or someone like that.
Yeah, still they've got Neil Bullen, they've got Draper that they got blood, they got Peatling, they got Cumming that they're going to want to play. Like, that's 4 players that need to go out.
It's true.
I'm not sure if he does come straight in. But anyway, and the fact that it feels like they're always trying to add another string to his bow. Like, you're not good enough to do this, to try this. You know, you're not good enough to play defense, play midfield. You're not good enough for midfield, play forward.
You're kind of talking me into this point of view, but I still think you're a hater.
I am a hater. And in all honesty, I would not be as strong on him if he wasn't a Crows player.
Of course.
I'd be way more lenient.
If that was like some Port kid, you'd be like, oh my God, he's so good.
If it was some Gold Coast kid that I'd never have to hear about, I would not care at all. Ben Hobbs, next one on the list. You're the Essendon supporter. What's your read?
I've heard bugger all about him in this preseason.
Yeah.
Like, there's been nothing. Like, we've heard they played a internal trial thing yesterday, and it was all Sardis.
Yeah,
I don't even think Hobbs was in the best team.
Yeah, right.
Like Red v Black, he was in the B grade. So really, the only reason he's getting mentioned is because of the forward status, which is cool. But if he's going to be fantasy relevant, him playing forward is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, him playing forward line at Essendon is going to be maybe a 65 average. Like, he needs midfield time, and I think you've got,
You've got so many midfielders.
Yeah, we've got Merritt, and Durham was playing really well. You can go on, like, he didn't play Setterfield or whatever over him, and if Sardis is getting this time, that's awesome to see. But like, for me, he's just so far down the rung. If he had mid-only status, it would be crickets from a fantasy point of view this year.
We'll try to get through the rest of the stash options because we've still got quite a bit to get through, and we're 45 minutes in. Nate Caddy, athletic forward, I think he just could be a 70-plus guy one day in the range of all those other key forwards
Look,
we're talking
I love
about.
Nate.
I know you do, so I thought I'd throw him in there. Ethan Reed's a player I'm cooling on. The reason why I was so hot on him in the first place is that I thought he was going to be the number 1 ruck and a fantasy kind of pedigree ruck. This is one thing I didn't factor in at all last preseason, which is what makes my picking of Cherry early on is even more funny. Is I did not factor in the changes to the ruck rules being able to overstep the mark to be more in favour of those big body rucks as opposed to the athletic kind of fourth midfielder rucks. And it's kind of flipped the script on a lot of these rucks. And I think he was in that category of the Dean Cox style, that extra midfielder kind of guy Ethan Reed was. But he's going to be a key forward now anyway, because I just do not see how he gets past Ned Moyle in the foreseeable future.
Ned Moore is obviously so well proven at VFL level too.
Yeah,
like,
and AFL
heaps of clubs would, heaps of clubs would come for him in a heartbeat.
Well, then that's what the thing. He signed that big contract, and other clubs were genuinely disappointed. So, long story short, I just don't see a path for Ethan Reed for fantasy scoring at this stage. Maybe if he gets traded, there's talk of ruck time or whatever. But right now, I'm cooling on him. But still, late pickup. If you could play a rookie list or something like that, he's one that you might want to consider at that range, but don't go too hot on him. Got a few extras you want to fly through?
Yeah, a couple of stashes for me. Caden Cleary from the Swans averaged 86 in the VFL last season, and there's been some good pre-season chatter on him. So he's a Swans Academy kid, averaged 100 plus in his last year there. We know the Swans side is tough to crack, but obviously Dean Cox, new coach, who knows what will happen. And so we know Luke Parker's gone, potentially Chad Warner's gone next year. So I think he's a really good stash option, especially with the forward status this year.
Agree with that.
And a couple Giants players. Connor Stone was the Giants VFL Best and Fairest or Player of the Year. Turned down a good offer from Essendon in the off-season and is apparently training in the back line. Averaged 84 as a forward in the VFL. We know Perryman's gone, Cummings gone, Peatling's gone. Genuine potential for best 22 and does have some scoring ability. So Connor Stone's one to keep an eye on. And I think is Darcy Jones. A bit of a third-year breakout, potentially pegged for him. Lots of opportunities last year, so he's got a lot of experience under his belt. Toby Green's on the way out. He can score, had 108 average in the Waffle Colts. Averaged 74 in the VFL last year for a small dude. I think that's a pretty good effort. And 4 of his 12 games at AFL level went 70 plus. So I think he could naturally evolve. Toby Green on the way out, a few more opportunities with those guys departing. I think Darcy Jones is definitely worth a late flyer.
I do like Darcy Jones. I just feel like he's just too tiny.
Small?
Too tiny to be anything but like a little pocket rocket.
But Caleb Daniels tiny?
Yeah, true. But if he had this, and he does have similar skills. If you see a significant role change as of anything else in a small forward, then maybe just don't see him.
I think those guys are worth it.
All right, let's get on to some of the fossils. Now, the first one I want to talk about is Jack McRae, and I'm going to bring up a tweet that you put out a few months ago. I don't know. September. Yeah.
So long ago.
I'm going to say Jack McRae to the Saints is rather bad from an AFL fantasy perspective. 2024 mids for the Dogs was 76.5. It's 89.9.
Yep.
And for the Saints was only 76.5. Saints average scores, you've listed him, Daylight Wood. He's a big pass from you, even with forward status. So on the back of this, you're saying that he's going to be no good at the Saints because the rest of the Saints are rubbish.
Well, they don't play a high scoring game.
They play a very high fantasy scoring game.
Well, obviously they don't.
They're one of the best fantasy scoring teams out there.
Are they?
Yes.
Well, those averages would say not.
Because their midfielders are bad. Like I said, the second best midfielder is Paddy Dow.
All right, so maybe there's a little bit wrong. So, all right, so you're starting up a keeper leg this year.
Yeah.
All right, you're fine because you're going to go for the flag. So he's great for you. He's useless. Because he's going to a club where they probably don't score as well as the Dogs.
Yeah.
He's going to have 1 year as a forward status because he's going to play midfield. He's not playing forward at the Saints.
Yeah, that's correct.
He's not actually in a startup keeper league. He's kind of worthless for me. Like in my team where I'm shit, he'd be worthless.
He's 100% worthless for you. I do agree with that. I think for the broader public though, any team that's contending, he's going to have one of his better years. I think. Oh, maybe not one of his better years, but he will definitely bounce back to be a 90+ forward.
Well, you didn't want to take that bet with me.
I don't bet.
Group chat.
Like I said, I'm just happy being right. I don't need extra money.
I'm going to set my line for those listeners, and you can come at me afterwards. 89.5 is the line.
Yeah,
I think he's under 89.5.
I reckon overs. Yeah, I reckon 90. So just over that. I reckon it's a good line. So anyway.
But is that good? Like, yes, it's good as a forward, but is it good long term?
No, it's not great long term. Because as a midfielder, he's going to fade off as well. Because he'll be 31 this season. Is that correct?
And he's old, yeah.
Yeah, or he's just turned 30. I'm not sure. He'll either be 30. He's definitely 30 now. I think he'll be 31 by the end of the season. So, look,
89.5.
The new club bump, guaranteed midfield time. The Saints game style as well really suits him. Just a lot of getting into space, kicking. Like they love to just possess the ball when other teams don't have it. Yeah, but they probably should. But anyway, I think he's going to be number 2 behind Steele, and he's going to be still be doing the defensive jobs or the kind of grunt jobs, and he'll be doing the slutty jobs.
Look, it's just everyone wants to say everyone's going to have their best scoring year ever. It's just like, well, he's not going to be as good as he used to be.
He won't be as good as he used to be.
But do you think that people have this rose-colored glasses on that he's going to be like an instant average 100 plus?
No, I honestly don't think that. I think it's more just the forward status, lack of forwards. He's going to be around the 90 mark, and it's going to be pretty good for forwards. Considering the best forward was 92 last season, is that right?
Dylan Moore, yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to be up there with one of the best forwards of the season. And I think that's fair if you're contending and draft, and then obviously the classic hype because he's so underpriced as well.
Well, yeah, obviously classic hype's taking over. But startup keeper, look, if you don't get him, or I'd be happy just to let someone else take him.
Yeah. Start up if you're playing contending, go for him if you're happy. If you want to do
he'll go first round.
Not first, second or third. Something like stupid like that will happen.
Yeah.
I think in the mock draft simulator, I'll give it up in a second, but I think he's going pretty early, round pick 30-ish.
Right.
I'm away for 2 seconds away from loading here, listeners. But yeah, I think it is around. No, he's going to pick 44 in the mock draft simulator. 47, sorry. Ranked 44th overall.
So that's end of round 4.
Around that, yeah. So which is probably about right. I don't know, but someone you will have a league where someone jumps early. For sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jesse Hogan, he turns 30 soon. Mm-hmm. He'll be a 70+ guy without doubt, probably for the remainder of his career. Do you see him repeating last season?
Yes. Yeah, I think
Coleman again.
I think if you're contending, as we were talking about with McRae, he's a must-have. I think I'm bullish on GWS being good again, and 75+ is going to be a top 20 forward.
Yeah.
There's nothing that would show that he would stray from what his last 3 season average has been.
You don't think they battle with Peatling out of the midfield? Do they, does Stringer impact him at all?
Their midfield is still Cornelio, Kelly, Callahan. They've still got some really good names, like Whitfield distributing off half-back. Cumming hardly played last year. Perryman hardly played. Peatling played the last half.
Yeah.
It's not like these guys didn't have huge impacts on that club last year.
Yeah. Peatling played the last half of the season.
Yeah, but that's cool, but the other guys were hardly in there. Yes, I think they're big losses for depth of the club, but I don't think they're not going to drastically change because those 3 guys have been traded out.
Do you still think GWS are a premiership contender with the list they got, or do you think they go backwards?
No, well, I'd be happy to, if you're going to, I don't know, I haven't thought about it, but I think they're a top 4 team.
Yeah, so do I. No, I agree. If you're contending, he is someone that is worth. I'm just thinking if you're not contending and you've got him, he's probably worth a sell though, you'd think, because he probably doesn't have a lot of time at this kind of level of scoring.
Depends what you can get from him. You still need forwards that are going to play.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe he's one worth keeping and then trading halfway through the year when you're actually no good.
Yeah. Just keeping with the GWS theme, Toby Green, do you think he can bounce back, or is he just a perma forward now that averages in the 70s? What do you think?
Look, I think I'm a bit concerned about Toby this year. Had a few quiet games last year, and I think you still have some really high peaks, but I think the troughs will be lower. Jake Stringer in makes it interesting. Talking about Darcy Jones before, do we see some growth from him? Stringer can go into the C bays as opposed to Green as well.
That's
so you kind of lose that. look, he could kick 50 goals and still be pretty relevant, but I think he's probably more of your mid to high 60s as opposed to a 75 pluser.
Just watching him play last year, he was very much more so like that. The guy you call on when you need something to happen, but not in it throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's still so dangerous up forward.
Yeah.
And GWS are going to be good again, so I think he'll still kick goals. It's just like, I think he's kind of that low, high 60s, I should say now.
Yeah, high 60s, mid to low 70s is my bet. Luke Parker, what does his 2025 look like, do you think?
Positive.
Can you give us an 80-plus season?
I think so. Well, if what's happening out of their preseason reports are true, obviously, George Wardlaw's
injured,
done for the first few months. I think Luke Parker was playing really good footy, 2023. Had that injury over the off-season and then suspended. He got harshly done by last year at Sydney.
Wasn't getting picked as well.
Yeah, and Sydney's midfield's stacked, so you can see why they wanted to kind of phase out someone like him. But I think if North Melbourne generally just want to kind of improve and get, they've got to have their best players around the footy. They can't just hide Parker forward.
Yeah.
But the good thing is I think he's one who will be, if you're going between McRae and Parker, I'd almost be tempted to, if you're contending or whatever, I reckon there's more value in Parker because I think he'll keep centre forward status longer term because he's much more of a threat up forward.
Yeah.
He can take a good pack mark or a mark and he's actually loves kicking a goal.
Yeah.
Whereas I think... Yeah, and he'll still get some centre bounce time because he's a big bull. So I think, for me, I'd be going Parker over McRae.
I get what you're saying, with he'll keep forward status and that. But, I think if you're drafting McRae or Parker or you're trading them to the side, you're contending and you don't give a shit what's happening in 2 years' time anyway.
Yeah, but I think, he's got more longer-term residual value as a forward.
Sure. I think he'll keep forward status.
I think he could be a 85, 90-plus average this year.
I think what my thinking is that he'll be... pretty much what Tom Powell did last year, pretty much 50-50 forward mid, which kind of hampers how he could score, but will still be what is he? He was a 78 average scorer. I think he might just be around the 80 kind of mark, just playing exactly the role because apparently Powell's going to go back to defence, so that opens up the hole there, and that's my thoughts. Is he just slots into that kind of half forward, half midfielder role, maybe swapping with a Simpkin. And then see what happens when Wardlaw comes back.
I think Parker will have a good year. I reckon he's got a point to prove. He's filthy about what happened at Sydney. And
I agree.
I think he's going to have a really, really good year.
All right. Anyone else you want to throw into the fossils?
I just thought Tom Lynch might be worth a flyer last couple picks of your draft. He's only played 8 games in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
2022 average 76. Yes, their ball supply up forward is going to be a bit of an issue, and they did get concussed on the weekend or whatever. But do you draft him to stream as well? On the few games where Richmond might have a more favourable matchup, I just think he's too good a player to go undrafted.
Pretty much, you probably said it then. I just don't know how they're going to get the ball to him this season. Richmond players are saying they're not going to win a game. If they're not going to win a game, that's the rumour that I can't remember. I think it was in the Discord or something like that. I probably shouldn't be saying this till I won't say any names, but someone was saying I've talked to a player at Richmond and they think they're genuinely not winning a game this season.
I think I had them winning 1 when I did my draft predictor.
Yeah.
And that was just they might beat West Coast.
Yeah, so I don't know who that was. I won't say anything else, but the players are already thinking internally that we are purely here to get number 1 draft pick next year. We're not doing anything.
That's rough.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
On the back of that,
if you're contending, I think last pick. Yeah, Tom Lynch is better than
late
else.
maybe. Yeah. True. He's going to play each week, so it's better that than having someone who won't play. Onto the rookies. There's not a huge lot of these, but Taj Houghton is a player that's listed as a forward. Don't know if he keeps that going forward. He averaged 116 from 3 games in the Talent League, but did his ACL mid-season, so we probably won't see him this year, but stash for the future. Just hopefully he doesn't play too much footy to lose that forward status, because that'd be kind of irrelevant then if we draft him there. And the other one's Joe Berry, huge reports out of Albany. He's carving up. We watched him at training the other day.
That's all we're hearing over here.
Pretty good. So
Berry season.
It wasn't a huge underage scorer. It was a 73 Talent League player, 60 under 18 chance, but I'm hearing the media and the comparisons are always Dylan Moore. I'm hearing, so I'm very intrigued.
It's a long stash, though. I think
it is a long stash. It will be 4 or 5 years.
For me, it's classic hype.
Yeah, true. It'll be a long time before he is fantasy relevant. Anyways, let's get on to the listener questions and finish up the show. Frizzo27 wants to know Kerno or Daniels for the last keeper spot. Who would you pick?
I've always been a Brent Daniels man.
Yeah.
I think Kerno's probably going to be more consistent, I think.
I see Kerno's 77 average last season.
Yeah.
Daniels at 85. I would be surprised if Daniels goes 85 again. I know they're talking about using him in the midfield more because Caniglio can barely keep his body together. Caniglio can barely keep his body together. I reckon they're both 70. I reckon Kerno goes about 77. I reckon Daniels goes low 80s, so I'm probably taking Daniels.
I'd go Kerno purely because I like watching him more.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like he's more exciting.
Whether your team is, you're not going to win a flag,
Yeah,
so you may as well just enjoy. Might as well just enjoy watching the footy. Diddley Docker, thoughts on the Wizard Watson and Bailey Humphrey ceiling for 2025 and beyond? We've already talked about Humphrey. Really. What do you think about Wizard?
Nah,
small forward.
Nah.
Yeah,
nah. Like yes, exciting to watch, but like same as Ginnivan. Like they're there to play roles. We've talked about McDonald, Dylan Moore. There's enough guys going through who are going to score much more than them.
Yeah.
Yes, they're warm bodies on your bench, but like
he's going to be part of a team's dangerous mosquito fleet. But you look at the Collingwood mosquito fleet. You look at who was the other one I had in my brain, the Brisbane one as well. They're not huge scorers. You know, they might be big, like Archie, someone like him pops up, kicks 3 goals on grand final day and puts up a huge score, but it doesn't happen consistently.
I wasn't kick 5 and have 100, but then the next week we have 30. And,
correct.
You know, so it's just for me, it's a no.
Yeah, he's a mosquito fleet player. Then Milne AFF wants to know, could Ginnivan take it up to another gear, potentially going around the 80 points per game mark in an Alex Neil-Bullen type role? The thing with Neil-Bullen is I think he had about 30, probably even more, 40 or 50% CBAs last year. Let's have a look. From memory, though, he was quite high up in the CBA count. Oh, no, it wasn't that high at all. It was about 18%, sorry. But still, towards the end of the season, was very, very high. So we'd have 69% in 24, 53%, couple rounds of 0. Like, if you can see Ginnivan going into the centre bounce.
I can't.
Yeah, attendances and players like that tagger kind of role.
One thing I give Ginnivan credit for is he's got a good work rate up and down the ground. Like he'll get up high, which does help. He's not just the guy crumbing goals. Yeah,
I feel like we saw the new club bump though last year and that extra excitement and the role. He's never like I looked at his CBA numbers. He had one CBA for the whole year. Neil-Bullen got to that 80% mark because he was playing a lot in the midfield come the end of the season. Whereas like Ginnivan's never going to do that. Does get up the ground a bit more, but I think you might get a season where Ginnivan averages 80, and that'll be the best season of his career, I reckon.
Yeah, plus for me.
Yeah, no, not for me either. He's on my list and he's getting dropped in my keepers of 12.
Oh, poor Jack.
At Rogen Rollers, thoughts on Jack Hutchinson? Not a big sample size, but he's training pre-season as a mid. Named in the St Kilda West Coast Best 22 on the wing.
Yeah.
Doesn't float my boat.
Look, to be honest, I don't know enough about him.
Yeah.
As we've talked about, I think you can take a flyer on these West Coast and Richmond guys. Like, hopefully get one that's worth capable, especially if you've got some rules around games played or age or something like that. Like, definitely throw some darts. Monitor the preseason games, especially for those two clubs.
Yeah.
Because, like, someone's got to replace these guys that are left and whoever left.
I think he'll average the same as Campbell Chesser, who played on the wing last season.
That does not mean anything to anyone.
It will not be good. Look, no, it's fine. It's like a late flyer. Hopefully something happens, but I think like he's a key forward, isn't he? Like he's a taller.
No, he's not that big,
isn't he? Or a secondary tall type thing. Plays the forward line usually.
You're the full-time podcaster, man. I'm just a
I'm pretty sure he was. I remember him taking big marks in front of goals. But yeah, I don't think
190 is big enough.
Yeah, I don't think he's just going to translate into midfield. I think it's just West Coast trying things. Yeah.
Plus, the more West Coast players you have, we'll have to watch Sunday night football.
Gross.
Yeah, no fun.
At the draft Bible, how high a priority are forwards to top up for keeper drafts this year? Do you have a theory?
I think we've been talking about this on our chat a fair bit. Like, I think, and that's where my team is really weak. Like, my mids are gross.
All right,
like,
so will you go? So okay.
No, so like if my team's going to improve, I need to find some proper gun mids. So I'm going to have to. The good thing is about some of these guys, your mid forwards or your forwards can obviously evolve into those players in time. So maybe I go a bit higher on them. But I think we've talked about a lot of players today. So I think there's plenty of value late in forwards. So I wouldn't stress too much.
Yeah, I'm very much of the opinion these days is like pick the best available scorer at your next pick. You know what I mean? Until your team's maybe full and you know I need to find 3 defenders to round out my back line. You filled every other position. Then that sort of stuff. Or I need to find 3 forwards to round out my forward line. That's probably when you go for it.
Yeah. Like my thing would be like someone like Philippou. Like say he was fit. Like he's the best. He's going to be the best player long term.
Yeah.
Like he's going to be a good midfielder So you don't need the forward status kind of thing. So
Yeah.
if you're going to look at those kind of forwards, go for the guys who you think will actually be genuine guns in the future. And then just try and, just find guys. There's plenty of warm bodies who will score 65 plus who will be completely fine for your side.
And just to repeat that philosophy, like if you've got a position that's not full, you say you've got still spots left in your defence, in your mids, in your forward line, don't pick a forward for the sake of you think forwards are going to go quicker. Pick the best scorer in another position. Worry about filling out your forwards later on. That's my philosophy.
I think you can go deep this year forwards.
Everyone's going to be in the same boat around then, But anyway. And the last question at TTQ03, is it fair to assume Jack Cram can average 75 with more of an inside mid-roll at the Eagles? We kind of talked about that one.
Yeah, he just has to keep fit. I think if he's fit and gets 40%-ish, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think so too. I reckon 50% CBA kind of average will net him an 80 plus. So if he can get that, then he should do that, I think.
Yeah, totally agree.
Anyways, Kaes, thank you so much for coming on the show on this 37-degree day.
It's really hot outside.
In Adelaide. Yeah, it's not super cool in here. I've actually got it on my phone. What is the temperature? It's 31 degrees in this room right now.
That's just because the takes are so hot.
And it actually, that's true. But it also feels, it's probably just that feels a lot better than outside, so it still feels cool.
I can't wait to crank the aircon in my car for the drive home.
Anyways, get around us at Keeper League Pod on all of the socials. I'm not going to name them all, there's too many these days. Make sure you're signing up to the Keeper platform. Lots of new great updates coming to that as well.
It is cool.
Get around Ryan Power as the creator, show him some support, and use that platform this season because it's actually going to revolutionise the way we play fantasy. Just having a look at some of the behind the scenes features.
And we are like 4 weeks away from draft day.
Absolutely.
It's exciting.
And just what I love about it is if there's like this happened twice this week, if there's an issue, you send him a message and he fixes it straight away, or he comes up with a solution to make it work. The classic example was everyone wanted a list to export from the players list. He put it up within a day.
How good.
Just things like that. So it's an awesome platform, and it's going to be, it's got a lot of tender love and care going into it. Support the creator. It's going to be awesome. Anyways, that's enough for today. We've just gone over the hour mark. So we'll talk to you next week. See you later.
Thank you.